The film starts with Philip Miller, who is the last man on Earth after a mysterious unnamed virus takes out every human being. He has been living alone for the past year and is driving around America to look for more people. He goes to every single state, making announcements to empty cities and stealing artifacts and paintings from museums. After the failed mission to find humans, Philip decides to return to his hometown, Tucson. Still at the last attempt to find someone, he writes "Alive in Tucson" on every billboard he ever finds. In Tucson, he goes to his shabby apartment and packs up all the necessary stuff before making his way to a gated community in the more lavish part of the city. He chooses the biggest house and declares it as his new home. He spends the next few days decorating the house with all the famous paintings, a mat from the White House, a dinosaur skull, Academy Awards, and many more artifacts worth billions of dollars. Nicolas Cage would be proud. Every day, before going to sleep, Philip makes sure to apologize to God for not being a good human being and wishes that he sees the face of at least one woman before his death. Thankfully, there are still a plethora of cars that he can use to drive around. He goes to the grocery store and breaks in using a gun. In only a year, he has completely forgotten basic decency. Now that he has no one to impress, he always does everything that was just an impulsive thought, like destroying the pile of cans in the store and bringing hundreds of films home. To pass time, he plays racquetball himself, uses lamps and aquariums as bowling pins, and crashes cars into each other. The chaos makes him feel a hint of adrenaline and helps him cope with the loneliness. After about a month, he starts to lose his sense of sanity. Moreover, being alone on his birthday reminds him of everything he failed to appreciate when life was normal. He misses his mother, his life, and humans in general. The scene cuts to a few months later, the grand mansion Philip lived, which now has turned into a dumping site. It is filled with plastic and cans that he never cleans up because there won't be meaning to it anyway. He hasn't showered in days and has started living like an animal. The house lacks running water and the toilet is covered in plastic bottles. So instead, Philip makes a hole in the spring pond and uses the pool as his toilet. He also fills the kids' pool with margaritas and bathes in it while simultaneously drinking from it. Let's hope he never gets the two pools confused. Then one day, he goes to the bar and draws faces, assigning them names and personalities. He talks to them like they are his real friends, just to feel like he isn't lonely. At night, he brings a ball named Gary to a clothing store and hits on a mannequin that he has crashed on. When her arm breaks, Philip loses his mind. He decides that he doesn't want to live anymore and goes to the nearby hill to commit the unthinkable. He wishes farewell to all his ball friends and promises to remember them for eternity. Then he gets inside his car and drives towards the hill at full speed. Suddenly, he sees smoke rising in far away and stops the car seconds before it crashes. Philip can almost not believe his eyes. He immediately follows the smoke and reaches a trailer that is clearly inhabited by a person. Then he notices something he had been begging to see for the past year. Someone has left their inner to dry in the sun. Philip becomes overwhelmed and falls unconscious. When he wakes up, he sees a beautiful girl holding him. She promises to fulfill his wishes and kisses him. But then he wakes up and realizes he was dreaming. The girl in front of him is less attractive and older. She is performing CPR on him to bring him back. They pull away from each other, weighted upon seeing another human after so long. Philip asks her where the beautiful woman is, until she points out that he should be worried about his own instead. It turns out he peed in his pants when he was unconscious. Even in a situation like this, Philip aggressively starts explaining he did not do this himself, which makes the girl panic. She brings out a gun, asking him to stay away. Philip finally admits and is embarrassed. After both of them calm down, they introduce themselves. The girl's name is Carol. She used to be an analyst before the virus and has been wandering around America after everyone died. She saw the "Alive in Tucson" sign and came here to see if she really is the last person alive. Although Philip had been dying to meet a woman, he isn't very excited to see Carol. She repeatedly corrects his grammar, doesn't understand his jokes, and keeps talking about irrelevant things. After talking for a while, they decide to drive to the grocery store. On the way, Carol complains about him crossing the stop sign. Despite Philip arguing that there is no traffic, she remains adamant that they should follow the rules, or else they will start living like animals. To make her feel better, he stops at a sign and looks to both sides, confirming there is no one crossing the road. Her nagging doesn't stop when they reach the grocery store, and Philip parks in the handicap spot. They get into their fifth argument of the day, with Philip insisting that the imaginary handicapped person has a lot of space to park his car. When Carol still urges him to park somewhere else, he runs the vehicle straight into the store. Following that, she goes to take a tour of his house and is disgusted by the way he lives. He has two swimming pools, one filled with feces and the other with garbage. Carol accuses him of stealing the paintings, even though he argues they didn't belong to anyone anymore. By the end of the house tour, Philip asks her to go back to her campsite. The next morning, he is woken up by Carol cleaning up his house. She nags him to get gardening and cleaning supplies from the store because they have to start living like human beings. At night, Philip goes to his ball buddies and complains about Carol. Even though he has only known her for a day, he feels like they're a married couple who desperately need to get a divorce. The following morning, things get worse for him as she moves into the house next door. He tries to shoo her away, but Carol, being Carol, is stubborn. She asks him if he's scared of being seen by someone, and Philip replies in a very weird manner in his own way. In the next scene, he is in his outdoor toilet when Carol approaches him. She wants him to find a way to get running water to their house. That way, they can grow tomatoes and other fruits. When he refuses to help, she tries to bribe him with fresh tomatoes, but he doesn't care. She should know better than to try bribing a guy who shits off a diving board. However, when it gets dark, he breaks into her garden and eats all of her vegetables. Carol knocks on his door the next morning and finds him covered in leftover tomatoes. Philip still claims that he isn't the one who stole them. He also notices Carol has hurt her leg while trying to transfer water to her house from a manhole. A few days later, she gives up on trying to live like a decent human. Philip finds her making an outdoor toilet in a fountain, copying his swimming pool toilet. Carol thinks that they might not be the chosen ones, but instead the forgotten ones, who have no purpose in life. They are in no way capable of creating an entire human civilization when they cannot even arrange a toilet in the million-dollar mansions. Philip, who is used to seeing Carol as an optimistic person, feels awful for her. Hence, he goes to the city's water tank and arranges a way to water Carol's garden. She is finally happy to see a good sight to him and invites him for dinner. At night, Philip enjoys an organic meal. After a long time, the topic of love is brought up and Philip says he's ready to make love with her now. However, to his surprise, Carol doesn't want to before marriage. Initially, Philip laughs, thinking that it is a joke, but she turns out to be serious. Even though the idea is ridiculous, he proposes to make her feel better. At last, they decide to get married the next day. In the following scene, they are in a church saying their vows. Philip thinks it is unnecessary, but goes to the act anyway. When they step out of the church, they are welcomed by a crowd of guests. Philip realizes he has made a mistake and screams. Then he wakes up on his bed, thankful that it was only a dream. He even has to check out the window to ensure that most of the world is still dead. A while later, Carol comes to his house with the food. She thinks they should elect the President of the United States by voting. It is useless, but Philip elects himself and becomes the president unanimously. Then the two enjoy spaghetti and raisin balls, which Carol thinks is a good alternative to meatballs. Following that, the day of the wedding finally comes. Carol prepares the decorations and cake, while Philip is tasked to get rings for them. However, instead of getting the rings, he throws a bachelorette party for his ball buddies, setting fire to random things in a parking lot. He even goes to say goodbye to the mannequin, telling her that she will always remain the love of his life. At the end of the day, he goes to the church where Carol has prepared recording that will officiate their wedding. After brief vows, it is finally time to exchange rings. This is when Carol discovers that he didn't get them. She realizes that she's the only one putting effort and calls off the wedding. Later, Philip knocks on her door, trying to talk to her, but she doesn't reply. Hence, he breaks down the front door with a hammer and enters the house. To his surprise, she has actually put in an effort to decorate it. She has even prepared a cake for them, with his statue on top. Philip feels awful about what he did and apologizes to her. He also reveals that he doesn't really like her personality or the food she cooks, but even so, he's glad that she exists, because without her, he would not be alive right now. With that being said, Philip brings her out to do something special. In the following scene, they go to the jewelry shop where Carol gets all the rings she wants. They finally officiate the wedding and are declared husband and wife. At night, the two make love. The next morning, she finds him playing racquetball in his home. Philip thinks she's going to nag him again, but to his surprise, she joins him in the game. They enjoy the rest of the day doing things like Philip normally does. They make fireproof suits and set each other on fire, run a bulldozer over beer cans, and go to meet Philip's ex-girlfriend, who is a mannequin. Carol talks to her for a while before beating her up for hitting on her husband. For the first time, Philip is glad that he married her and thinks that their life might be tolerable. As they're driving back home, they suddenly hit a limo in a junction. Shocked, Philip runs to the car and sees a beautiful woman come out of it. Just when he thought he was happy with his wife, he starts to regret their marriage.